we were in negotiations.
Investing in real estate, they're winning, they're making money.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Estate Educators Podcast, where we provide the education you can build on. I am your host, Kevin Amos. This podcast has been so much fun. We're helping real estate investors and real estate educators. If you're out there buying properties, flipping, holding, or if you're out there providing content to investors, this is the podcast for you. I am so excited you're here. I know you're going to get a lot of value, and I know you're going to give us a 5-star review and share this with a friend. Speaking of friends, I've got a close one with me today. Back to Alexandra. We were supposed to see you last month, and that's how close we are. You were going to be at Danielle and I's wedding reception, and you could tell us a story, but oh man, you had a little bit of problems with the flight. But great friend. We've known each other for several years now. You've been in real estate for over 6 years as an investor, a broker, now starting your own property management company. You're an absolute student. I've seen that, learning all different aspects of the business. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me and the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
We're in season 3 now. I don't know if you knew that. And this is the first time that you've been on. I don't know what was taking me so long to send out the invite. But gosh, I'm so glad you made it. And it seems like we're both so busy. We almost have to do this on camera to even have a conversation and get caught up.
Yeah.
But take us back. So I know when I met you, you were still teaching. And I know you were doing real estate, I guess, sort of part-time, but you're looking to progress into a full-time. That's when I met you. But prior to that.
Yeah, I think when you met me, I probably had just been done teaching. I did only teach. So there was one summer where I taught summer school, and I also had my real estate license. Maybe we met during that summer, but and that was basically it. After one summer, I was like, I like real estate so much more, and fully converted over. But yeah, it's been a little bit over 6 years, and formerly an English teacher. I really haven't looked back at all. And yeah, just kind of pivoted a little bit in real estate, but I have enjoyed it all, and I really like where I'm at now.
I remember, and you probably remember this too, but we were working on our first deal together. And you saw the fees that I was charging, and you're like, "Oh my God, you're making too much money." That's like a whole year of salary, you told me.
Yeah, it stressed me out. I was like, "Oh my God, these points!" Yeah, you
That's
did
funny.
lower it, but you're like, "Next time, I'm not doing
Yeah,
this."
no, you got me. You got me here. That
Yeah.
was fun. Yeah,
Well,
we don't lower fees, so I don't want to put it out there that we negotiate. But that one really stuck with me.
okay, yeah.
So take me back prior to me meeting you. I know your parents were in real estate. I know you did some work with your brother, so it's almost like a family thing here. And it sounds like that's kind of what got you excited about real estate to begin with. So take me back to that.
Yeah, so definitely growing up, I worked with my parents owned student rentals. They owned an asbestos abatement company. And so essentially very blue collar work. My dad was in there like chipping away on tiles all the time with his employees. But with the money they made, they bought real estate. They bought student rentals, as well as it was all student rentals except for they had one. I believe it's an 8-plex that was not student rentals. They did not like that one nearly as much. They really liked their student rentals. And basically during the summers, there was a period of about a week because they were student rentals, the turnover was all at the same time. And so there was essentially a week where all of the students would move out and all of the properties would be vacant, or most of them. And then as a family, we'd go in and we'd clean up. And basically my parents gave us the jobs we could do. And we would turn over the units as a family. My dad would sometimes take time to teach me things while I was cleaning up. I remember he gave me like a rotten old beer can to clean up, and my parents didn't drink growing up, and so I like smelled it. I was like, "Is this how beer smells?" It was completely rotten. He's like, "Yes, you'll never want to drink." I was like, "Oh, gross." And he tried to get me over my fear of spiders during this time. So he'd stick me in a room trying to kill spiders, and I couldn't do it. But yeah, it was not fun. We did like a lot of cleaning. They did pay us probably way under minimum wage, but they did pay us, and so we would just go in as a family and get all of the units cleaned out, and really long days. But I'm so glad in hindsight that we did that, um, because with if it were not for that, I likely wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now. Um, so then when I was a teacher, I wasn't really I wanted to travel. I still wanted to do the things that I grew up doing, and I knew there was no way I could do that simply on my teacher salary. Uh, and so I was supplementing my income. I was coaching, I was working in restaurants, but I really wanted to buy a house. And I figured the best way to do that would be to move into a duplex. So to do house hacking, rent out one side, live in the other. And that's kind of how it all started. I met a realtor. We worked together a lot. We offered probably 20 times. Um, and then I got to know him well, and he's who convinced me to get my real estate license. So the thought was I would teach during the day. I would be on his team. He would answer the phone calls during the day for me. And then when I got out of teaching, I could, work on my real estate listings and work with my buyers, and then hopefully work on some projects I had going on. I was hoping to get into the investment side a little bit. But that was short lived. I just liked real estate so much more.
So how long were you a teacher then?
3 years.
Okay, so you go to there's another friend that we had on the show that has a similar story.
Yep.
Dexheimer, you might know him.
Oh, I do. Todd.
Yeah, so
Yep.
he has a very similar story, right? Where you go to school for X number of years after high school to get your teaching going.
Yep.
Is it just a bachelor, or is there
So I got my master's.
so you got a
Um,
master's?
yeah, I was teaching with a bachelor's degree. During the course of the 3 years, I continued and got my master's. I actually got a $600 a year for my salary pay increase
Oh my
once I got
gosh.
my master's. So like the ROI there wasn't great, but yeah.
So is that like total of 6 years of school or 7?
So my undergrad was 4 years, and then my master's degree I did part time after the normal day, and so that was 3 additional years for me.
So okay, so 7, so 8 years. No, 7 years. If I can do
7,
math.
yep, yep,
7 years of school for 3 years of teaching.
yep.
That
I did do some like substitute teaching before that, stuff like that, but I wasn't a licensed teacher yet. Um, and after 2 years, I knew it was not for me. I was in I would say a tougher school district, and so my parents were like, "You've gone so far with this. Why don't you try a different school district, a different school, and see if you like it?" And it still just wasn't what I wanted to do for my whole life. I didn't hate it. There was aspects of it I did really like. But people think, a teacher, you're getting your summers off. I never had any time off. Like I just because I couldn't afford to. Yeah.
and I know now how successful you are, and the audience is going to learn that as well. But so you started out transacting. So it'd be a fee, you help with the deal, you get a little fee,
Yeah.
but that's not really creating the financial freedom that you saw your parents have.
No, not at
So
all.
what made you or what made you get into the real estate investment side, and how did you transition from the broker to the investor?
Yep. So really how I got into being an agent, as you know, was looking for this investment property. Um, Judd, who I was working with, was like, you should really become an agent. You can work with other investors. You can start to really understand the market better. I think this will be good for you. And you can still then, look for your own deals and then roll your own commission into that. And so that made sense to me. And not to mention, I liked working with buyers. I liked working listing. I had fun doing it. Um, it felt like so much freedom compared to teaching, where I couldn't even answer a phone call. While I was a teacher, I was basically a student. I never saw a window in a classroom. Like it was just so much freedom. And so, as an agent, though, I was still looking for deals. I got my first deal in November of 2018. It's a little single family house that I bought for 16,000, 1/6, in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And so basically, that was my first flip. It was about 2 hours away from my house. So I would drive there and work there. There was no cell phone service there. So I couldn't even look on YouTube to figure out how to do things while I was there. And so I was really learning by, it was like a lot of tears of blood and, um, not that fun, but also really fun at the same time. Uh, my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, would come out and help me work. And we were both figuring things out. He wasn't, he now is a licensed contractor. But at the time, we were just piecing things together. Um, my brother taught me how to drywall, but he's not very good at drywalling, I think, or maybe I just was not a good student. But it was like the worst wall I've ever seen. I was like, oh, thank God it's done. Um, but yeah, we ended up selling that house for $70,000. And I probably put uh, obviously a lot of sweat equity, but money that I put into it was probably around maybe $5,000 or $6,000. Everything on there I would find for free on Facebook. Um, Everything was like as cheap as possible. The 16,000 I did not have at the time. I borrowed from US Bank. I got a line of credit for I think 8,000 of it. So it was really all my money. I wasn't making good money at the time. But it was an investment and it was overwhelming. And then from there, I learned a ton, and I did, even though it was really hard, I did really enjoy it. In certain ways, it was fun and a challenge. And then from there, I was able to secure my next property, which is another single family house, really crappy one. We called it the Cappy House, which we lived in um, while it was the Cappy House. And that was creative financing where I bought that from another investor because I had started to build a network of people who I knew. I started working primarily with other investors as an agent too. So I was starting to really start to get to know other investors. And this next house I bought was something that this investor basically said he couldn't flip and make profit because he was going to have to contract it out. Well, Mike and I could go in there and live in the cap key and get everything for free essentially and do it ourselves. And so that's exactly what we did. Um, those were some interesting fights we had where I was like, we can't have the pee everywhere. I can't, like, literally you had to put your shoes on to get out of bed because the bed was on like cat litter carpet. It was disgusting. But we didn't have water in our kitchen. We only had it in the bathroom upstairs. And Mike was like, we need to have running water. And I was like, we don't need running water. We can't be like living in these conditions. So our fights were literally like about like what to fix first because everything was disgusting. There's blood everywhere, holes everywhere. Like it was a horrible, horrible house. And now it's adorable. I actually recently sold that. It was a rental, but
Oh, how was that? How did that feel?
Um, it felt good, but part of me was like, I kind of wanted to keep it forever.
Yeah.
Um, it was in St. Paul, and I kind of was tired of. You may or may not know St. Paul landlord laws have changed a lot, and there's rent control now. And I just was like, this might be the time to exit. I've exited most of my St. Paul portfolio at this point. So that was one of the last ones to go, but it was happy and sad, you
I
know.
can imagine a little bittersweet. I mean, you
Yep,
had some emotional attachment to that after
yeah,
living through those conditions. I think a
yep,
lot of investors go through something similar, maybe not to that extent. I've moved in and flipped several properties, like every couple of years I was moving.
yep.
So same story, but it wasn't as bad. But I do think that's a fairly common strategy for newer investors.
And actually, that house was the first of four in a 12-month period that Mike and I lived in. So we were moving so fast, we wouldn't even have been unpacked. Um, So we basically did this over and over quite a few times.
Wow. So I was trying to take advantage of the tax benefits of living there for 2 years. And so that
Hmm.
when you flip it, there's a big gain, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the flipping and can be considered inventory, right? And so now you have like an actual business you're running and it's taxed even higher than a short-term capital gain. But if you were there for 2 of 5 years, no tax at all. So
Yeah.
that was sort of our
We,
our strategy.
yeah. And it worked for us at the time for sure. I certainly wouldn't be doing it right now. Well, I hope to like never move again. But yeah, it was good for the time. And some of them we just kept as rentals and would move to the next one. But yeah, we did move 4 times in 12 months.
That's crazy. So what's your portfolio look like now? I know you've migrated over to shopping malls and some much
Yeah.
bigger and more fun and interesting things. I want to learn how you did that one, but what's your portfolio look like right now?
So I've been slowly transitioning. So I started buying apartment complexes, and then that transitioned into mixed use and then commercial only. I still occasionally will buy some residential because I do like to have some of those things going on the side. They're quicker turnovers. It's a different strategy. Um, but to me, it's kind of second nature at this point. Um, but yeah, my portfolio now, I have 3 strip malls, and then I have a few other commercial only buildings. I have about 200 units of residential, um, and around 400,000 square feet. So um, it's yeah, it's bigger. I've actually I'm working on selling problem properties, so it's smaller than it was, and trying to stick with the ones that I really like, the assets I really like, getting rid of ones that are causing me a ton of problems, and then continuing to buy the asset class that I like, which is strip malls.
Okay. I want to dig into this because I think the viewer and the listener can benefit here.
Yeah.
So, Alexandra, there's a lot of concern in the market, and we're on the tail end of COVID. I mean, some people will say it's still around. I mean, it is still around, right? It's not the pandemic anymore, but it's still relevant.
Yep.
But when that all went down, retail strip centers got decimated.
Hmm.
So that sounds really risky, probably to some of the newer investors out there. What's a piece of advice here, and why you would want to go from residential, where somebody has to live somewhere, right? And that there's some comfort with that, to something that maybe carries a little bit more risk.
So first, I would say I did not feel that security with residential. Tenant landlord laws during COVID did not. They were very favorable to the tenants, and so I felt very fortunate that the majority of my residential tenants were even paying. Um, you have a couple of single family houses, or that's a full mortgage you're paying if they're not paying. And how many people can continue that month after month after month with them not having to pay and you having to pay your mortgage? So I totally understand that logic, but also I didn't feel the security that I think some people think was there during COVID. For me, um, my first strip mall was purchased October of 2020, I believe, and so that was, COVID. I think started around March. So I probably got a significantly, maybe a better deal because of that, because people were scared. But I did have a few other commercial buildings, and I think, um, you know, I was fortunate where I didn't have a lot of people who were not paying, or or businesses that weren't paying. I know a lot of other investors who, on the commercial side, did not have that experience. Um, at that time, prior to that, most of my properties were in secondary and tertiary markets that were commercial. And I think that possibly those smaller communities had different thoughts around COVID, and they were more open. Um, and so we weren't hit too hard with it. Um, for me, residential was worse than commercial.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the markets I was in, right? secondary and tertiary markets.
What do you think about office? That's the scary word we're hearing right now.
So I personally need to get a bigger office. Um, I just have outgrown the space that I'm in right now. My brokerage has grown. Um, I personally am much less inclined to take the risk. I don't know if it's for sure coming back or not. I know if I was going to do it, I would want to be sure that I could use it for something else other than office and work with the city to ensure they would allow that non-conforming use or a variance or anything so that I could put a different type of tenant in there. I am looking for something just for myself to um, move to, but I would still rather stick with retail that allows office. So I'm hoping to get a space to move into where I can move into there. Ideally, my husband can move his company into there, and then we could have it set up for our family having a kid soon. So, like a daycare, a gym, all the things we want. That's ideal. But strictly office, unless I'm moving in there and I have uh, other people I know for sure are moving in there, I personally am a little bit scared, even though I know that some investors are going to make really good money on it.
Yeah. What I've seen in office, at least in my market, is the suburban office wasn't hit really at all.
Yeah.
It's the core, the inner core.
Yeah.
Gosh, I just got a text. I just got a text today, Alexandra. I'm actually going to pull up my phone right now and read this to you. So my good pal Sean sent me this. Show the camera here. I'll just read it to you. It's an article that this investment firm is buying a building in Denver Tech Center, which is basically a financial district. And when I click in here, this thing sold for 80 something million dollars a few years ago, trading today for 22 million.
Whew.
Is that crazy? So
Yes.
those are getting decimated. But what I've seen in the suburban is they're not at all. So Danielle and I were in a very similar situation about 1 year ago that you're in right now, just starting the process to look at offices. And thank you for the advice to her, by the way, to make sure she gets her commission in there, because we just made 60 grand when we closed on this thing.
Amazing.
So that's great.
Yeah.
But what I found was we were looking for retail or small bay flex.
Yep.
And because of the concern you're talking about right now, and what I found was if you're looking at owner occupied buildings, so let's call it 10,000 feet or less, there was no discounts at all in office because you go SBA. But once I got to 20, 25,000 square foot buildings, those price per foot numbers came way down, and the cash flows are actually pretty decent. And you could buy some turnkey office right now that you could just move into some empty space for decent deals. So I'm just sharing that with you because you're in the same position I was about a year ago.
And we did look at and have another building under contract that was office only. It was Rafik, Mike, and I, and we were all going to move into there, but there was just so much deferred maintenance on it, and it was, it looks like a great price per foot, but then there was elevators, sprinklers, everything in there that would have had to come up to new code, and it didn't end up working out. If I could get an amazing deal on office and I could know that with myself and the other ones who are for sure, whether it's Rafik or Mike, it really depends on location. If Mike's company could join it with me. And then I really want to get a daycare in there. If I'm able to do that and break even or lose a little bit, and if worst comes to worst, everyone else leaves, I would do that. But just at this point in my life, we're gonna have our first kid, and I don't need to do anything at this point that's gonna put me at a big risk. And so I don't want to. I would rather sleep better at night and maybe not gain as much as others, but also not stress as much. That's kind of where I'm at right now with office.
Yeah, for the listener, that's such a good point you're making. It's all about your personal goals, right? It doesn't have to be the home run deal every time. I'm not looking for home run deals either. That's why I bought one that was already performing. I don't need the big upswing in the valuation. I just want something I know is going to produce income from day one. That was attractive to me. But yeah, good point that you're making. Your goal, start with your goal, right? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah. And for me moving forward, my goal is kind of, I would like to do one larger project per year. So one strip mall. If we move into an office space, that would work. But some one larger thing, and then I do side projects as well. Like we just bought a small commercial building in Illinois, Mike and I did. But like those are on the side. I want one larger that I can do an accelerated depreciation on per year, and just focus on that.
Cool. And flipping properties every once in a while. You and I are in a
Yeah.
deal together right now.
Yep.
And I got an update today, so it's been a bit of a challenge, huh?
Yeah, hoping to get the electric turned back on. Oh my god.
I
Yeah.
I'm a step or maybe two steps removed, so I don't really know, but I'm just curious because this is pretty unique,
Yeah.
right? If there's something that the listener can take from this property, and we could go through the story on how we acquired it, but I know you've learned something from here, so let's give the
So,
listener something that they could take that's tangible. What did you learn through this process that maybe we would do different?
okay, so this is a really awesome, beautiful house that was designed by an architect who, as we're moving forward, we're learning that things were done very incorrectly, I would say. Like gas lines are on the ground instead of buried. A lot of things where when we're going through and pulling permits and the city gets involved and then their structural engineers, it's like you think you're going to just be fixing one thing and then it's another thing and then that's opened up and there's another thing and then they have to cut all of the electricity and there's no electricity in the house and you're waiting for this foundation to get finished and it's just like um maybe it was too cool of a house. Actually, Mike and I were going to buy that and move in there.
Yeah, you were. And
Yeah.
we got caught up in a title issue that I've never seen before. So I remember we were at an event together, you and I was told you, "Oh no, this is ours. We got it." I,
Yep.
I, I mean, I ended up being right, but not anywhere near what I thought it was going to go. Right? We had to work through that.
I learned a lot there too. I didn't even know that they could end up in like first and like they were in multiple positions sandwiching us for the
Yeah.
leads. I didn't know that that was even a thing.
How can that even be
And they were
legal?
paid off by you guys.
Yep. So we ended up foreclosing on a property from a judgment position, which was in a junior. And then there was a mechanics lien
Did
filed.
you know you were in junior position?
Yeah, because we were a junior. He already owned the house and had a loan on
Okay.
it, and then we just attached our judgment to it.
Okay.
So we definitely knew we were going into a junior position, but I didn't know that a mechanic lien that was recorded after the junior can potentially jump in front of us. Um, so I mean, I knew that that was possible. So let me take that back. I knew that was possible depending on when the work started. But the problem with this one is they wanted the house, right?
Yeah.
So they jumped in front of us and sued us for a lien priority. And we didn't want to fight it. It was very small, actually. It was much easier for us to just pay them off. So we paid them off and they cashed the check, but they didn't remove their lien.
So
Now they were saying, just kidding, we're not in front of you in a second position. We're actually in a third position right behind you. So they were playing both second and third. And their idea there, Alexandra, and for the listener was they wanted to redeem us out, pay us off, and take the property. But they were already satisfied there was no loss because they were paid off and cashed the check. So we had to battle it out with them.
and that's not possible. Like there was no way they could have won that,
They couldn't have
correct?
won
They
that. There's
just
no way.
they just push it out for what, 6, 7, 8 months?
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
if
my.
they were trying to get us to submit and them get the house, or I don't know what their plan was, but they definitely wanted to either wipe us off and redeem from their third position or pay us off and redeem.
Yeah.
They wanted the house. Their mistake was they cashed that check. Well, their mistake first was to challenge the position. If they would have just stayed in third, they would have won. They would have got what they wanted.
I wonder if they laid down some gas Um,
I wonder if they did.
we should go after them.
Uh, what an
Yeah.
interesting story that one was. But we ended up with it. Now we're remodeling it, um, and I know there was a
Honestly,
beam
it'll
or
be
something that, like
which
the structural beam that threw us off.
yeah, so there's a beam, a structural beam that didn't go all the way through the house. It is the main structure. So I don't know, have you been in the house?
I have not. No.
Okay, so the kitchen, and we knew we were gonna have to redo the floors, but the kitchen, especially because we decided to do the cabinets,
Yeah.
um, floor was like really wonky. And we assumed it was just because of that one wall that was bad, that was shifting out. Well, turns out there is the main beam for the support of the house did not go all the way across. And so now they had to cut a new hole in the foundation. They're going to connect it to the original beam and extend it all the way. They had to build two new walls, which is why they had to rip out all of the HVAC and electrical. And it's just been like, I feel like it's just never ending. And so anyways, that company just got paid by you guys for the original wall, and now they say that they'll turn back on our electric because they were all of a sudden, holding that over our heads too. That they wouldn't turn it back on. Where I need to get the cabinets in, I need to get the floors done.
Yeah.
Like we need to finish everything. Can't do it though till the walls are in there. Otherwise, I don't want to put in new cabinets and then granite and then everything cracks again if something
Yeah.
moves.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Well, we'll get through
yeah,
it. Thank you for
yeah.
all your.
I've been talking to Jared a lot, and
Yeah.
he's been nice with it. But I feel so bad too because I'm working with you guys, and I had no idea all these problems are going to come up.
I feel bad. You don't need to feel bad. I feel bad also because this is what we should have just let them have it. The tree company.
Yeah, like maybe actually, maybe we should go back to them.
Think they'll take my call now? That's funny.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial is a private lender specializing in short-term rehab lending to real estate investors. Got a property that needs some love? We can help. We are able to offer funding solutions because we raise private money from individual investors. With more than 15 years of experience, Pine offers passive investors an alternative that provides stability, consistency, and security to your portfolio. If you like real estate but want to avoid the ups and downs and effort, a Pine mortgage fund could be a perfect fit for you. Accredited investors will experience an 8% preferred return and profit sharing. Diversify your portfolio out of Wall Street and into Main Street with a Pine Financial Group mortgage fund. Get more information at pinefinancialgroup.com. That's pinefinancialgroup.com.
No.
All right, well, let's get into your brokerage because
Okay.
you were working with somebody else first, and you got into investing, and now you have your own brokerage company, and
Yep.
you started a little property management company that I know is just kind of getting going.
Yep.
So tell us about your brokerage.
Yeah, so I started my brokerage about a year and a half ago. It's Financially Free LLC. The focus of it is basically, and so just so you know, when I started this, I didn't care if it was just going to be me under my own brokerage. Um, what I wanted was because I'm primarily at this point only doing my own deals, I didn't want to be paying another brokerage a large portion of my commission, which is just coming out of my pocket. I would like to fully utilize my commission for my down payment. And so basically, I started my own brokerage, and the point of it was for me, and also when my one other agent joined with me initially, it was a brokerage for investors. So everybody in the brokerage is an investor. Everybody essentially works with other investors. We definitely focus on any sort of investment property. So we have people who do Airbnbs, contract for deeds, commercial, short-term, mid-term rentals, and then like apartments. Actually, one of the guys in my brokerage is buying 16 units from me in 2 weeks. So we work together as well as far as like finding deals from each other. And the point of the brokerage is just to be around other investors and to really bounce ideas, but more so talking about problems that we're running into, and new laws that we're facing, or that we're learning about, and just have a small network. And then basically also I only take my broker admin fee. So I just take flat 500 for residential, flat 1,000 for commercial. And I'm not offering leads. I'm not doing any of that. I don't want to be, I'm okay being a broker, but that's not my goal, right? I never have been like, I want to be a broker. But I did get my broker license. And so I am legally liable. If mistakes are made, I could get sued. So I do make sure that I'm keeping up with that and looking over transactions as well. But everybody is really competent. And we have a really, really fun group now. There's actually 3 new people joined in the last week, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congrats.
so there's 11 of us. There will be. And so still small, but I have 4 offices in here. So I need more space. And not everybody offices in here they obviously couldn't, but other people would want to. And I just do feel like we've kind of outgrown this space. Um, my meeting this morning, I have Thursday morning meetings where we go over, what's going on in our portfolios and issues we're running into, and like deals that we found. And it's really cool. I have learned so much from different agents in my brokerage. Like today I was just talking, one of the guys, he works with insurance companies a lot, and he has a 3-bedroom house in Crystal that he's renting for $7,000 a month just because they're working with insurance. And that's like more than double typical market rent for a 3-bedroom house in Crystal. So just like little ideas like that come where it's like I could probably tweak my portfolio a little bit and get, furnish things. And I really want to try it. Even though, I'm focused on commercial, but that just sounds so appealing.
Yeah, I've never
Um,
heard of that. So he just calls the insurance company and say, hey, if there's someone that's displaced, we can put them up.
so yeah, what he does, he doesn't call them. So initially he got contacted by insurance on Airbnb. He was marketing it for, I believe, 3,500 or 4,000 on Airbnb. And then they reached out to him and they were like, what do we need to pay you? And so he actually said a higher number, and they were like, okay. And so then he was really excited. I think the next number, the first time he told them 4,500. And so then this next time, same thing. They reached out to him and they're like, we have a displaced family. There's a fire in their house. And so the insurance company needs to place them. And so they were like, how much will you charge? Even though it's marketed on Airbnb and Zillow for a different price, he was like 7,000. And they're like, done. So now
Oh
he
my
has them in there for
gosh.
$7,000 a month for 6 months. And I mean, he was basically saying it doesn't matter what you market it for. And then also now that he started working with them, he's now considered a preferred vendor, I believe he said. Um, and so they'll reach out to him directly instead of having to go through Airbnb, which I think is even a little bit more profit. And he's working through something called ALE Solutions, which I guess is a company that connects you with insurance companies. This is all like me trying to relay information I heard that I don't know too much about, but I think I'm definitely going to look into it.
So let me make sure I understand this right. I'm going to charge you twice market rent, and
Yep.
you're going to make me a preferred landlord.
You,
That's
I'm making
crazy.
for that. Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
But I think it all has to do too, because there's somebody else in the office who's done this, and it really depends on what the client's insurance plan is like, and so what their limits are, because it has to be a comparable house to where they were when their house burned down or whatever happened, the flood or whatever the catastrophe was. Um, so I think it really just depends too on the insurance plan.
Cool. So that's the power of a mastermind. And you've created that in your own firm. So I don't know if you're taking on more brokers, if there's anybody in the Minnesota market that's looking, but
Yeah,
you created
sure
that.
would. You just cannot have us here yet because there's no space.
It's so funny.
But yeah,
Where would time here, but if I wasn't in Minnesota and I wanted to be part of a mastermind like that, where would I go find? How can I find that?
Um, so do you mean like any mastermind?
Yeah, like if I'm listening to this right now and I was like, oh man, I need to be in a room like that with 11 smart people that help me. Is that something that I could go out and find on my own?
I mean, for sure, you could find way bigger ones than 11 too. This is just a weekly meeting that we have. But I think one of the first things you should do is look into joining a RIA, like MinRIA, or if you want to do commercial, there's like MinRec, which is real for commercial. So you look for a RIA in your area and join those meetings. It's all other people who are looking to network and have a mastermind. And then there's a ton of different groups too. Like you and I are part of the same networking group. I actually took a year off because of baby, but there's like Commercial Academy. I'm part of Power Players, another group that is amazing. I mean, if you look for the groups, they're pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, during a brokerage, I think one of the biggest parts of a brokerage is I don't love going in and going over like, oh, this is how much the brokerage made this week. Like agents don't really care about that, and I'm not going to be pushing. I mean, for me, the brokerage is not a big money maker at all. It's paying for its office and the things it needs, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is the network and the group, and I really, really, really enjoy who I'm spending my time with now. So it's really fun.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got the property management company. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Yeah. We basically started this just because, I think anytime you hire out management and they are taking care of things and you're not super involved, things are, it's, it's easy to overpay and it's easy to not know when things are starting to unravel a little bit. And I have had multiple management companies I've worked with. And over the course of my career, I've realized the only way for it to be done exactly how I want it to be done is for me to do it. And so Hannah and I, she's my best friend, and we also work together. Started in, I think, December. We started Northern Lights Management. We called it that because just like the Northern Lights, it's really hard to find a really good property management company. So, anyways, we're only managing my portfolio right now, but eventually maybe we would grow to manage others. I just hired, actually, she started today, the second W-2 employee that's helping strictly with management. And she has a lot of experience in management. I think she's going to be really great, but day one. But yeah, she seems really awesome. And she actually, the biggest thing is like, I'm not an accountant. I'm not, as you know, when I'm trying to figure out my Zoom camera, I'm not super good with technology. Those are things I really like or even care about. But she has experience with really similar software as to what Hannah and I have been using. And so she's going to be probably helping us a ton with that. And then actually, we use a software called Rent Manager, and she's actually used that in the past on the tenant side. So she understands the tenant side of that as well, which is really nice because we do get tenant questions about it, and we see the landlord side. So having her who's used it on the other side is really nice. But yeah, it's growing, slowly taking back my whole portfolio um, from multiple management companies, actually, residential and commercial. And then if things go well, possibly expanding to other people's. I've had a lot of other investors already reach out to me and be like, "Oh, do you want to manage my stuff?" I'm like, "No, God, no, not right now." Like, I am just right now trying to ensure that I'm doing this correctly and can get my own properties well managed and flowing smoothly. And all of this, I'm hoping to get all transferred before I have my baby in early December because I want to be a part of it all. And um, I think it's important that I am, especially in the beginning. So, yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on a ton, actually.
So you have a little bit on your plate right now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
And you still took the time to hang out with me at 45 minutes of your time. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
I was very excited.
Well, we do got to wrap up here, Alexandra. Is there any other pieces of advice, say, to maybe a newer real estate investor just trying to get going?
Um, I think just what I would say is don't be scared of changing your mind. Like I started in and I never thought I would do commercial. I only ended up in commercial by chance because I bought mixed use buildings and I was like, oh, I actually like these commercial units more. I like the tenants more, the lease structure, everything like that. I enjoyed that relationship. So I think, sometimes people think this is what I do and this is my path, but you don't know what you don't know. And so change your plan if you want to change your plan. But then also move forward. Don't get stuck on what is my plan because it doesn't even matter what you think it's going to be. It likely will change and pivot anyways. So,
Good
yeah.
advice. Okay, so here's the section of the show where I try to go through what I learned in the episode, and you tell me if there's anything I missed. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so here's what I have in my notes. You feel more comfortable in commercial and did even through COVID. Residential scares you a little bit, and there's two reasons for that. Well, I guess really comes down to one reason: tenant landlord law. Right?
Mhm.
You are a little bit concerned with that, and you're experiencing that heavily in Minnesota, as we are here in Denver as well. Always start with your goal. The power of a mastermind. You think that the people around you really help you out, and you created your own mastermind in your brokerage. And then you said a good place to find a mastermind is at a RIA. So if you're in Minnesota, the MinRIA is a great one. RIAs are all over the place. So just get on line and you can search that up. It's RIA's Real Estate Investment Association. And then finally, you said, don't be afraid to change your mind. You don't really know. It's like school, right? I mean, you go into college and no one starts with the degree they end up with. Real life is that way as well. So just be open-minded is what I'm getting from you. And yeah, go with it. Whatever your passion is taking you, follow that. How did I do?
I think you did great. Yeah. Good job. A plus.
I gotta say, I'm so glad that I had you on the episode. And I'm actually coming out to Minnesota. I think it's maybe 1 week or next, like a week and a few days. Maybe we can connect and go out and take a look at Montgomery and have lunch or something.
I would love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just text me. Yeah.
I'll let you know. All right. Any final words before we close out here?
Not really. Just thanks for having me. And if anyone wants to get in touch, just look up my brokerage, Financially Free LLC. You'll find it. Also, a huge part of it is I have my dogs in here and my cat. And so if you don't like animals, just don't waste your time.
We have a dog in our
Non-negotiable.
office half the time.
Yeah.
So definitely get a hold of her, Alexandra if you have questions about commercial, if you have questions about her brokerage, about property management. Also, she mentioned she's looking for a building for her to office out of, a retail building in, I guess, near Minneapolis. So if you see any of those.
Within like 10 miles probably of Burnsville area. I live in Prior Lake, so somewhere around there.
And we'll put this on the show notes, financiallyfreellc.org. And then you also put on here an Instagram handle. So we'll put all that in the show notes. With that, Alexandra, thank you so much for the last 50 minutes of your time. There's so many different things you could be doing, and you chose to hang out with me and our audience, and I so appreciate that. And to the audience, thank you so much for checking out the episode. I know you got a lot of value from Mrs. Alexandra Haider. I didn't even say your last name until just now. I really appreciate you tuning into the episode. I know you got some value, so please help us out. We're trying to help more real estate investors just like you. We could do that with a 5-star review. So thank you for doing that, and I hope you make this day a great one. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to follow and leave us a review. Oh yeah, and tell a friend.